Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program today. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a great lineup for you. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you are ready for it. Now, everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com, as always, that's where you'll find the best information, everything that we do, up-to-date articles, reviews, show notes, podcasts, links to social media, all that and more. Highly encourage you to go check that out. Once again, that's our website, computeramerica.com. Now, with that being said, if you'd also like to join us live over at twitch.tv/computeramerica, you can ask us questions, join us live for the show, and hey, just generally hang out with us. Typically around 9 or 10 a.m. every day Eastern till about 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, you can always catch us there, ask us questions, and hey, we even do a little tech support on the side as well. If you have an issue, if you have a problem, we'd love to help you, and hey, we may even bring your issue up on the air if it's if it's good advice for everyone, because odds are, if you're having a problem with it, a lot of other people are as well. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. So our first story that we're going to do is actually from, Engadget. And surprise, surprise, John Fingus. And well, it's about Arizona, and we reported on this a little while ago, but looks like it's official. Arizona is the first state in the country to allow drivers licenses in Apple Wallet. So, obviously when you go out, you have to have your physical ID. You have to have the piece of plastic, and that generally a picture of the ID is not accepted anywhere. Well, that may change, and obviously Apple ID is going to be a little bit different than a typical phone in your library, but it's essentially the same thing, although there will be some tie-in that Apple has done with Arizona and with a couple of other states. I think Colorado, Ohio, and a few other states are looking into this. And if you have registered it, if you have verified it with Apple and all that good stuff, you can now use your phone and phone only to identify yourself to authorities. You're currently limited to presenting the digital card at certain TSA checkpoints in the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, but this may save you the trouble of having to reach for your conventional ID. Apple is also promising wider availability in 8 states already announced, including Colorado, Hawaii, Mississippi, Ohio, and Puerto Rico, have also committed to supporting ID cards in wallets. So there you go. It's and obviously a lot of verification goes through this. They did not do this overnight. Apple actually intended this to be a thing with years ago. But all the red tape, all the regulation, all the making sure that people don't make their own licenses and fake IDs, false IDs, things like that. It's not easy. So it's not easy to get this secure onto a federal level. So to get this working, you have to have obviously an iPhone, at least an iPhone 8 running iOS 15.4, or an Apple Watch Series 4 or newer running watchOS 8.4. There you go. In Wallet on your iPhone, if you are curious on how to do this, you can add a driver's license or state ID by scanning the card, taking a selfie, and making head movements to prove the identification is yours. So this obviously pairs a lot with with Apple's ability to, do Face ID, verify someone's identity. And I guess it's gotten to the point where, at least in Arizona, at least in that one particular airport and probably one little TSA line, it's good enough to move it on to official capacities. So Apple maintains that cards and wallet can be more secure than the real-life counterparts. You only share the necessary info. You don't need to show your device to an official. All driver's license and state ID data is sent over an encrypted connection, and the requirement for biometric authentication should prevent others from viewing your sensitive details. So, if you have to show these things, you can at least show, this is the official, let's say, Arizona driver's license. This is my name. This is my face. You don't need to show things like, where you live, blood type, organ donor. Think of all the information that your driver's license may have. You could imagine that if you wanted to show at a bar, you could, at least show that this is an official ID, and it would only show the face of the ID and maybe your date of birth. Things like that. Only share the types of data that you want with the places that need to see that specific data. Android has had the framework for digital driver's license as of version 11, but it typically relies on third-party apps. Google hopes to standardize these IDs through Android Ready SE Alliance it formed last year, although it will take some time for vendors to come on board. So there you go. Both Apple, both Google, I'm sure every other smartphone manufacturer, they really, it makes all the sense in the world why they would want this to be a thing. And you can imagine that if you could leave your wallet at home, because they already have Apple Wallet that can store your debit cards, your credit cards, now your driver's license, your rewards cards, all the apps for the different places that you go to. Apple very clearly, in particular, and I'm sure Google does as well, and Samsung and all them other ones, if I want to use English incorrectly, they want you to leave your wallet at home and only take your phone. All of the data, all of the biometric, all of the tracking information goes directly through them. So hey, that's a win. And then on top of that, your phone becomes irreplaceable. The device that they sell you, that they support, that they want you to carry with you at all times, it's not just your way to communicate. It's not just a way to capture photos or videos. It is now a way to identify yourself, pay for things, and otherwise exist in this modern society. And yeah, they want it to be that one device. I think right now a lot of people can kind of think that, I could leave my house without my phone, but not my wallet. They want to flip that. They, that you can leave your wallet at home and just take your phone. That's the more important part. So yeah, again, it's quite easy to see why they're doing it, how fast this is going to be adopted. Honestly, it's going to take a couple of years, but that does seem to be the trend. The more they can get, authorities and the federal government to recognize a photo of an ID and a scanning of an ID more so than the actual piece of plastic itself, this is going to be adopted. So jump on board or not, we'll see. Okay, so there's story number one. Story number two. Let's go ahead and jump on into this, where we have, YouTube. You may know the one. YouTube is, of course, they have provided so much content over the years. They've done everything from podcast through the Google Play Store. They've done podcasts. They've done books, audiobooks. They've done TV shows. They've done movies. They've done, music, of course. But wait, some of those are going away in here shortly. Check this out. This is YouTube makes thousands of TV shows, episodes available to stream for free. Now, available on Twitch, that may be up for debate, but at least stream for you individually. For the first time, YouTube is letting users in the US stream thousands of free ad-supported TV shows like Hell's Kitchen, Heartland, and Unsolved Mysteries. That will put it in competition with OTA, over-the-air, TV, and streaming services with ad tier blocks. So think Peacock, Roku Channel, Tubi, and others. Honestly, Hell's Kitchen is a huge draw. I mean, it's really a great, is really a great TV show. And I can imagine that's going to be a huge draw. So YouTube will offer around 4,000 free TV episodes on top of the 15,000 already available. 1,500 movies available. This month, it added a raft of new movies, including Gone in 60 Seconds, Classic, Runaway Bride, and Legally Blonde. There you go. So, obviously, movies and TV shows that are a little bit past their prime, but people still may be interested in catching it for free, again, with ad support. So with the new TV offerings, YouTube is no doubt hoping to keep American users glued to its platform. Having dozens of episodes from multiple series will allow users to binge like they do on Netflix and, of course, consume even more ads. There you go. Okay, so with that being said, until last year, YouTube had been trying to fill content holes with its programming via YouTube Originals. Earlier in 2022, however, it announced it was largely abandoning those ambitions and would focus strictly on its Black Voices and YouTube Kids funds. The program had had some success with shows like Cobra Kai, but didn't pose much of a threat to Amazon or Netflix. There you go. So YouTube and this I wanted to pair with another story that we're not really going to cover in as much detail, but suffice to say that the Google Play Store is completely dropping its TV and movie section. So it's something to keep in mind. It looks like YouTube Google is trying to get out of the content production side of it and more into the content delivery network. So we'll see about that. So let's go ahead and just take a second between stories here. And once again, I really appreciate when people come into the chat room and kind of talk about this. So this gentleman, Nick's boy, is I'm going to buy a new PC and I need it for gaming games, obviously, first-person shooter games. And I'm wondering what parts are good. Is AMD good? Ryzen 5 5800X and RX 6800, CPU, GPU. I've been a huge Intel fanboy forever. So AMD doesn't really come all that naturally to me. 350, yeah, that will do perfectly. The RX 6800, I think, will also do really good as well. Let's see, 6800. I think that's the graphics card. Yep, that one's gonna run you a pretty penny though. Let's see, how much does that one cost? Yeah, about 600. Yeah, no, more than good. Really, the question here when buying a gaming PC is AMD versus Intel. Obviously, both are very, very capable. I know Intel gets bashed on a lot, but they're still more than capable. But when it comes to price to performance, AMD has really been knocking it out of the park, especially in the medium to low end. Even the medium to high end, AMD has been doing amazing. So with that, I would say that Ryzen 7 5800X and an RX 6800, they are very good. If you can get them for a good price, that might do, if you can get them for a good price, because obviously everything's out of whack right now, but very, very good equipment. Is it overkill for FPS games or is it okay? Games like Call of Duty, games like, 1.6, wow, can't believe I'm actually drawing a blank on it. Anyways, some of those older games, yeah, it might be overkill, but at the same time, you have new games like Valorant, you have games like Overwatch, you have games like, obviously, Call of Duty, Warzone, and all that good stuff that have, 100 different people, 100 different people on the server at the same time. You could play with 60 FPS, maybe 140, 120 Rust as well. If you're looking to keep that consistent 120 frames per second, then overkill is definitely what you want. It's some of these games, even though they're first-person shooter and it's supposed to be about accuracy, reaction time, all these kinds of subtle things, it's not really about the graphics. Some of the first-person shooter games that you could play are going to be pretty graphic intensive, and you want that bigger hardware. Do you need it? Absolutely not. Is it nice to have if you can get it? Absolutely. And on top of that, you are future-proofing yourself so that PC could potentially last you for, 4 or 5 years instead of 2 to 3 years. So with that being said, after we're done recording the podcast, you can join us in the chat and we'll, kind of look at PCs together if you'd like. We can definitely do that. But we're going to go ahead and continue on we're going to continue on and do our computer technology news, and then we'll revisit that after we're done recording. So everyone, story number 2, story number 3. Let's go ahead and talk about this real quick, and not much really to say. For those who don't know, inflation's been crazy. It really has. And, well, we're starting to feel the effects of it, especially in the, not so important purchases. But check this out. Starlink is raising its monthly subscription price for satellite internet service, citing inflation. So with that being said, the biggest problem here, and this is what got Rivian into so much trouble. Citing inflation, Rivian had people who had deposits down, and it was like, $5,000 or $500, or something like that, saying that, hey, you could buy one of our $50,000 trucks. Thanks to inflation, they came back to consumers, and the high cost of, producing and shipping and the price of oil and gas and blah, 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 all that good stuff led them to say, okay, the pre-orders that you put down are now $70,000 instead of $50,000. And that led to a huge blowback. It led to lawsuits being filed almost immediately, almost like a bait and switch kind of deal, an apology from the CEO, and yeah, it was a really rough day for Rivian. So I'm curious as to how people will react when SpaceX and more for their internet, their satellite internet offering, they're essentially doing the same thing. People who have already put their down payment, who have already put their reservation fee on the line, they're being told that, well, the cost is going to go up, even if you've already, even if you've already put your money down. So the Starlink kit, as the hardware is called, will now cost $549, a $50 increase, and the monthly subscription has also gone up $11 to $110. Which, by the way, that's a huge increase. The sole purpose of these adjustments is to keep pace with rising inflation and ask SpaceX to clarify what the inflationary pressures are of running a satellite internet service where customers set up their own service and the satellites orbit Earth through the power of gravity, but did not hear back from the publication. So there you go. It's, very good point. I mean, a lot of the costs of these things are already kind of, they're already out there. So inflation alone could only account for so much of this increase. So customers are also noting that Starlink had previously signaled the service would cost less over time, but now seems to be going in the opposite direction. They say that it's expected to the price to fall over time and will cost about $80 a month and less than $300 to set up. And, well, honestly, this feels so on point for Elon Musk. Overpromising, under-delivering, and not hitting his timelines. All of this seems really, on point. Now, clearly, Starlink does have a satellite internet service. And in some cases, it's better than anything else you can get out there. But, yeah, not planning for things like inflation, that's a pretty big miss. So I can understand why people would be a little annoyed that they put $50 down and now the price is going to, kind of be all over the place there. So there you go. Story number 3, story number 4. And we're going to do these two kind of together. And Microsoft and Okta, OKTA, Okta breach. both of them have been confirmed hacked by LAPSUS. If you haven't heard about LAPSUS, you may have heard some of the recent hacks that they pulled off. This was the group that hacked Samsung, that hacked Nvidia, that hacked EA, I think, was one of the ones that they were targeting. They've hacked a lot of big companies. And, well, it's a problem because there's no end in sight. And the way that they're getting in, we can actually point to this article here from Motherboard. Let's see. No, it's not that one. I think it was this one from videogameschronicle.com. They actually have a link, or I should say a photo from a WhatsApp conversation where they are actively recruiting people from these companies. And it looks, a little fishy, and especially when you understand what they're really looking for, this is some seedy stuff. So the company the company concluded by providing recommendations to other corporations that may be targets of the hacker group, including showing a screenshot from a WhatsApp conversation wherein the group cites a list of targets, including Apple, EA, and more. And for those who are watching the video portion, you can see it right there. For those who aren't, let me spell this out for you. It's by LAPSUS Jobs. And again, this is through WhatsApp, saying that we recruit employees insider at the following. And they mention any company providing telecommunications, so Claro, Telefonica, AT&T, and others, large software and gaming corporations, including Microsoft, Apple, EA, IBM, call center, such as Teleperformance, other kind of call center type things, server host, OVH, local web, and other similar ones. They want to recruit people that are already in the system, that I guess in the hacker space would be known as the man on the inside. They're looking for people that already have permission, who are maybe contractors, who are maybe full-time employees, and saying that if we are not looking for data, we are looking for the employee to provide us a VPN or Citrix to the network or some AnyDesk. Essentially, they're saying that we don't want data, we just want access to the data. So I guess what they're saying is that, they don't want the employee to copy and paste all of the, let's say, the client list from these companies and sell it to LAPSUS. LAPSUS only wants direct access to these companies, because if they can get a secure, full-fledged access to the networks, then, hey, they're way better off. They're way better off than they used to be. Now, if you're not sure if you are needed, then send a DM and we will respond. You will be paid. If you would like, contact us to discuss that. So they're even willing to pay these companies, these individuals within these companies. And this has always been a possibility, but this is very blatant. And the problem is that they're actually getting results. Like, this is not a new form of attack. It's that, they're actually getting success in hacking Nvidia and Samsung in particular. And now Microsoft has confirmed they've been hacked by this as well. So they mentioned that multi-factor authentication is their primary line of defense. While this group attempts to identify gaps in multi-factor authentication, it remains a critical pillar in identity security for employees, vendors, and other personnel alike. So, yep, Microsoft's been confirmed hit Okta, which is another company out there. They're a cybersecurity giant which provides authentication services for private and government clients and handles how hundreds of millions of users are able to securely log into their employee network. There you go. In a statement, Okta said the breach was brief and took place in January, but the method the hack used to gain access still highlights a weakness in giant companies, which is they targeted a third-party customer support worker. Again, if you are one of these companies, you need, tens of thousands of employees to work your phone lines, run support, do customer service, so many different things that you could need access to the system, but still not strictly be a member of the company. You just need one of these third-party contractors to have a secured access to it, sell it to one of these hackers, and boom, your network is compromised. Very, very hard, and honestly, one of the risks of having so many employees and having people on the outside working for your company on the inside. So they're saying that LAPSUS is an increasingly audacious hacking group that has targeted, the companies that we mentioned. The group has also repeatedly dumped data that it says came from the victim's network. So they're getting a lot of publicity lately, and one of the reasons for that is, well, they're successful, and that's a problem for everyone. So there you go. Let's go ahead and do one more story, and then we have an offbeat one, and then we'll be done. So our last official tech story of the day, check this out. One of the conversations we had back in 2016, 2017, when self-driving cars were first making their way into the market, was who's responsible? Let's say there's a self-driving car, there's a person sitting inside the car, there's the car manufacturer, and then there's the person outside that gets hit by that car. Let's say, tragically, fatally. Who's responsible? Is it the person that owns the self-driving car? Is it the company that made the software for the self-driving car that probably is not Mercedes, but someone else that they, not Mercedes, not Tesla, not whatever. Is it the person who programmed the self-driving technology? Is it the car itself that actually struck and killed the person? Who's at fault? Who would be due damages? And how would all of that legally shake out? Tesla, for its part, puts big warnings on its car saying, you have to be ready to take over the car at any moment. If this car injures someone, it's your fault. You should have been paying attention to what the self-driving car is doing. Well, in this case, Mercedes might have them, they're going the other way with it. Mercedes is saying that their Mercedes Drive Pilot beats Tesla Autopilot by taking legal responsibility. Mercedes will accept full legal responsibility for the vehicle whenever Drive Pilot is active. The automaker hopes to offer the system in the US by the end of 2022. That's much, much more impressive than you would think. Because when they say takes full legal responsibility, car crashes only end in a couple of ways. Either severe injury, maybe, some very annoying light paperwork, or in some cases, death. Like, this is a huge way to, kind of take this. So obviously the United States has little in the way of federal regulation, and individual states are handling this on their own. But right now, the vast majority of states have no framework in place to regulate the deployment of autonomous vehicles. So Mercedes is trying to circumvent that by saying, hey, we are going to take full responsibility. If our car causes a crash, if our automated service causes some kind of harm, we will take responsibility. They're not waiting for states or legislation to catch up to them. They're going to get out ahead of it. So there's a catch, of course. Handing over driving responsibility completely requires extremely particular circumstances. Drive Pilot can only be engaged at speeds under 40 miles per hour on limited access divided highways with no stoplights, roundabouts, or other traffic control systems, and no construction zones. Eligible roads must be mapped by Mercedes for Drive Pilot use, and the automaker has already mapped every such highway in Germany and those in Nevada and California. So in very, very tight, restricted circumstances will they take responsibility. But I will say, it's a start. It's a start where you, an individual, can go out, buy a car with this software on it, turn it on, and truly and honestly feel like, hey, it is a self-driving car. There you go. It's so with that being said, we're going to end that one there. But Mercedes is actually putting up, and again, very, very, very few use cases where that actually works, but they're actually doing it. And that's something to be applauded. So our last story for the day, and this one is not strictly tech, but I thought all of you might get a kick out of it. Much like baseball cards, much like Pokemon cards lately, comic books. Sometimes they sell for a pretty penny. Check this one out. A rare Marvel Comics #1 pay copy auctioned for $2.4 million. This happened yesterday, and the ultra-rare pay copy of 1939 Marvel Comic #1 sold for more than $2.4 million in an auction. You can imagine something that says 10 cents on the cover suddenly going for $2.4 million. Certainly different. So the pay copy of Marvel Comics #1 has changed hands multiple times since being discovered in a filing cabinet in the 1990s. It was sold for $227,000 in 2010. Stephen Fischler, the chief executive of Comic Connect, said the buyer of the most recent auction wished to remain anonymous, but he described the collector as a man in his 40s who lived outside of the United States. So there you have it. By the way, the rare comic book, which features the first appearance of characters Namor the Submariner and the Human Torch, an android precursor to the more well-known Marvel character, and it sold for, again, $2.4 million after 33 individual bids. So it's not even like one. This was pretty highly contested. Yep, so the comic, which was published by Timely Comics, which later became Marvel Comics, is known as the pay copy because it contains annotations by publishers revealing how much was owed to the book's contributors. There you go. Yeah, check your filing cabinets. You might have a rare, well, I guess this one's even more rare because it has annotations by the publisher themselves. So that's very cool, but overall, still very, very neat. You can go check that out. To that story and more, ladies and gentlemen, everything will be in the show notes. ComputerAmerica.com. You can check that out. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning into the program. We'll catch you here next time, and might be a little bit late tomorrow, but generally 10 p.m. to about 4 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/ComputerAmerica. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Catch you here next time. Bye-bye.